Hello friends, welcome to One Book. Today we're exploring a book that challenges everything you believe about getting things done. We all share the same complaint: I don't feel like it today. I'm not motivated. I'll start tomorrow. We've convinced ourselves that motivation is the most essential ingredient for moving forward in life. If we have enthusiasm, work will happen. If mood strikes, studying will begin. If we feel inspired, we'll hit the gym. But here's the truth. Motivation isn't a permanent force. It's a feeling, exactly like happiness, anger, or sadness. It comes, it stays briefly, and then it disappears. Motivation is actually a temporary neurochemical state in our brain, primarily driven by dopamine. When we encounter a new idea, hear a success story, or watch an exciting video, dopamine spikes. In that moment, we feel unstoppable. We create grand plans immediately. Wake up at 5 in the morning. Study 2 hours daily. Quit using phones. Transform life completely through discipline. But after a few days, that same motivation gradually fades. The person who yesterday felt invincible today struggles just to get out of bed. This is where frustration begins. We start considering ourselves weak. We think perhaps we lack willpower. We compare ourselves to others. How do those people stay motivated every single day? Yet the reality is, nobody remains motivated every day. Motivation's nature is to fluctuate. It's like weather. Sometimes sunny, sometimes cloudy. You cannot expect the same energy level daily. This is the biggest illusion, strengthened by social media. There, people constantly appear energetic, always in grinding mode, perpetually productive. We assume successful people stay motivated constantly. But in reality, successful people don't depend on motivation at all. This brings us to a very important concept: direction. Motivation is a feeling. But direction is a framework. Direction isn't an emotion. It's a logic-based structure. A system that continues functioning even when you're tired, bored, or feeling extremely low. Motivation says, work when you feel like it. Direction says, work because this is the established path. Imagine you want to travel from one city to another. Without a map, you'll keep changing routes based on mood. Sometimes left, sometimes right, sometimes stopping completely. But if you have GPS and a clear route, whether it's raining, there's traffic, or you don't feel like it, you keep moving. This is the difference between motivation and direction. Motivation gets you started. Direction keeps you going. When motivation is high, direction doesn't seem necessary. Everything feels easy. But as soon as excitement ends, direction is what pushes you forward. Therefore, long-term success isn't built from motivation, it's built from direction. Direction means clarity. You must know clearly what you need to do, why you need to do it, and how to do it. When this clarity doesn't exist, the mind falls into confusion. A confused mind always chooses comfort. Scrolling is easy. Sleeping is easy. Postponing is easy. Therefore, a person without direction returns to old habits the moment motivation disappears. Direction works like a roadmap. Steps are defined. What to do today, what to do tomorrow, this is predetermined. Emotions don't play a major role here. It runs on discipline. Many people fear the word discipline. They think discipline means force, strict lifestyle, freedom eliminated. But actually, discipline is just another name for freedom. When direction is clear, the mind doesn't have to make decisions daily, and when decision fatigue ends, life becomes easier. Think about it: if you must decide every day whether to study or not, whether to work out or not, you'll exhaust yourself within days. But if it's already decided that you'll study 30 minutes every morning, whether you're in the mood or not, the mind reduces resistance. Direction doesn't push like motivation does, it pulls. Motivation pushes you from outside through videos, quotes, and speeches. Direction pulls you from inside because you know where this path leads. This is why motivation becomes an addiction. People repeatedly watch new videos, read new books, hear new speeches to get that dopamine hit again, but they don't take action because they never created direction. Motivation without direction is like fuel without steering. Fill the car with gas, but without steering, the vehicle will crash anywhere. Direction gives you stability. When life gets messy, motivation disappears first. Stress, problems, responsibilities, feelings don't work during these times. Only systems work. Imagine a student preparing for exams. If they're only relying on motivation, they'll study when they feel like it. Some days will involve intense studying, then gaps will appear. But if they have direction, daily targets, fixed times, revision systems, progress continues whether they feel like it or not. This is the difference between average performers and high performers. Average people ask, "Am I in the mood today?" High performers ask, "What does the process require today?" Direction thinks long-term. Motivation wants short-term rewards. Motivation says you should feel good right now. Direction says it's uncomfortable now, but the future is secure. And real growth always passes through uncomfortable phases. When you build new habits, excitement exists initially. Then boredom arrives. That stage decides whether you'll move forward or stop. Motivation abandons you at that stage. Direction becomes useful there. Direction gives you identity. When you tell yourself, "I'm the person who learns daily. I'm the person who doesn't make excuses," then action comes from identity, not emotion. Identity-based action is most powerful. At such times, you don't think about whether you're in the mood. You think, "This is who I am, therefore I do this." This is the framework direction creates. Direction doesn't demand perfection, it demands consistency. Daily 1% improvement. Daily small steps. Motivation often makes you overpromise, "I'll study 10 hours today." Direction says, "Just 30 minutes today is enough." And these 30 minutes daily, accumulated by year's end, create massive results. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. Motivation is good for sprints. Direction wins marathons. When you establish direction, motivation becomes a bonus, not a necessity. Days when motivation arrives, great. Days when it doesn't, work still continues. This is mental freedom. So next time you say, "I'm not getting motivation," ask yourself one question: do I have direction? If the answer is no, then the problem isn't motivation. The problem is clarity. Create direction. Make a simple plan, not perfect, practical. A system that can be followed even on low days. Because the truth is, motivation shows you the beginning. Direction takes you to the destination. And the person who walks with direction doesn't need to stay motivated every day. Often we think we lack motivation inside. Mind feels heavy, brain feels tired. We don't feel like doing anything. We start considering ourselves lazy, undisciplined, or weak. But the actual truth is often something else entirely. In most cases, lack of motivation isn't actually a motivation problem, it's a decision fatigue problem. Decision fatigue means the brain becoming exhausted from overthinking. When the brain must repeatedly make small decisions, it gradually loses energy. Then externally it appears the person is lazy, but internally their brain is simply exhausted. The moment eyes open in the morning, the mind starts a long meeting. Should I wake up early or sleep more? Check phone first or brush teeth? Shower now or later? Study today or tomorrow? Which subject to study? How much to study? Where to start? These questions seem small, but each question consumes energy. The brain burns glucose on every decision. As decisions multiply, mental power keeps decreasing. After a few hours, the situation becomes such that the person isn't in the mood to do anything. This is decision fatigue. And when decision fatigue becomes extreme, it transforms into analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis means overthinking so much that action completely stops. You want to work, but you simply cannot decide where to begin. The brain starts imagining the result of every option. If I do this, what will happen? If I do that, what will happen? And in this overthinking, the entire day passes. To outside observers, it appears the person isn't motivated. But the internal truth is their brain is overloaded. Now consider, when you don't have clear direction, every task becomes a question. Every task has, "What should I do?" attached to it. And the brain hates uncertainty. It wants clarity. As soon as clarity disappears, the brain considers it a danger signal and pushes you toward comfort. Therefore, you abandon work and pick up your phone. Reels, shorts, videos, because there, no decisions are required. Just scroll. The brain gets relief. This is why when life is unstructured, distraction increases. Actually, your mind isn't running from work. It's running from confusion. This is where direction's role begins. Direction is the killer of decision fatigue. Direction means a predetermined path. When the next step is already defined, the brain doesn't need to think. The brain simply executes. Imagine you must decide every morning after waking whether to exercise or not. Within days, you'll exhaust yourself. But if the rule is, 20-minute walk immediately upon waking, the decision ends. Now no debate, only action. Direction reduces choices, and when choices decrease, mental energy starts being conserved. This is why the world's great leaders and successful people keep their lives simple. Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs wore identical clothes. The reason wasn't fashion. The reason was reducing decision fatigue. They didn't have to decide what to wear each morning. By saving small energy, they kept their minds fresh for major decisions. Your brain works the same way. If you burn energy all day on small decisions, nothing remains for important work. Direction saves you from micro-decisions. When your routine is fixed, the brain enters autopilot mode. Autopilot means less thinking, more doing. This is why habits are so powerful. Habit means decision-free action. When some work becomes a habit, motivation isn't needed. You just do it. But habits only form when direction is clear. Direction states, when to do it, what to do, how much to do. Answers to these three questions are predetermined. Then the mind doesn't get confused. Now imagine two people. The first person wakes up and thinks, what should I do today? The second person wakes up and knows, 7 to 8 study, 8 to 8:30 break, 9 to work. Both have the same intelligence. Talent is also the same. The difference is only direction. The first person will feel tired all day, even though they didn't do anything special. The second person will feel satisfied even doing less work. Why? Because the first person exhausted themselves thinking. The second person remained decision-free. When people say, my mind is tired, they've often done mental labor, not physical. Thinking without structure drains you. Direction gives structure. Structure gives the brain safety. When safety arrives, the brain stops resisting. This is why when you make a clear to-do list, work automatically seems easier. The work remains the same, but now the brain doesn't have to choose. Direction doesn't create motivation. Direction reduces friction. And when friction reduces, action becomes natural. Therefore, the real struggle isn't doing work. The real struggle is deciding. When decision ends, work becomes easy. Many people keep searching for productivity hacks. Which app, which method, which routine? But what they actually need is just one thing, clarity. Clarity reduces chaos. When you know exactly what the next step is, procrastination automatically decreases. Procrastination isn't laziness. Procrastination is a symptom of uncertainty. Where uncertainty exists, delay appears. Direction eliminates uncertainty. Therefore, if you truly want to become consistent, stop searching for motivation. Create direction. Simple direction, not perfect, simple. A system that can be followed even on low-energy days. A plan where this question doesn't arise: what should I do today? Because the day you don't have to ask yourself this question, decision fatigue dies. And when decision fatigue ends, motivation returns automatically without searching. This is the secret. You're not struggling with lack of motivation. You're struggling with lack of clarity. Give direction. The mind will cooperate. When the path is clear, feet start moving on their own. We often appear to be running very fast in life. Busy from morning to night. Sometimes studying, sometimes working, sometimes learning, sometimes watching content, sometimes making plans. From outside, it appears the person is very hardworking, very active, very fast-moving. But then the year passes, and internally a voice emerges: I ran so much. But where did I reach? This reveals a very deep truth. Running fast and moving forward in the right direction, these aren't the same thing. In physics, there's a simple concept: speed and velocity. Speed means how fast you're moving. Velocity means speed plus direction. You can run at 20 miles per hour. But if you're moving in circles, your displacement remains zero. Externally, energy will show, sweat will flow, fatigue will occur, but the destination stays the same. This is the situation for most people in life. Motivation gives you speed. Direction gives you velocity. When motivation arrives, a person becomes very fast. Suddenly starts 10 tasks. Begins learning 5 skills. Works on 3 goals simultaneously. Remains in hustle mode all day. But after a few months, it becomes clear: much effort happened, very little result. Why? Because there was speed, but no direction. Speed without direction is just movement, not progress. Progress happens when movement is toward a fixed coordinate. Many people stay busy 12 hours daily but aren't productive because their effort is scattered. Each day they grab something new. Today trading, tomorrow freelancing, day after tomorrow YouTube, then AI, then dropshipping. Everything is running. But simultaneously. This is speed. Velocity forms when you decide one point and say, I must reach here. When destination isn't clear, every path seems correct. And when every path seems correct, the person wanders most. Motivation creates excitement. Excitement makes you run. But excitement doesn't give direction. Direction comes from logic. It comes from a calm mind. This is why a motivated person moves extremely fast, but a disciplined person reaches extremely far. Direction aligns your effort. Imagine you're rowing a boat in a river. If you row with full strength but the boat isn't facing the right direction, you'll exhaust yourself but the shore won't approach. That same strength, applied at the correct angle, moves the boat forward with less effort. Direction is the multiplier of effort. Speed shows effort. Velocity shows results. Often people say, I'm working very hard, yet nothing is changing. This often means, effort exists, but the coordinate isn't clear. Coordinate means the exact point where you need to reach. Becoming successful isn't a coordinate. Earning money isn't a coordinate. Doing something big isn't a coordinate. These are all vague ideas. For velocity, you need specific coordinates. Like, within 6 months, get first client with this skill. Within 1 year, cross this income level. By this age, build expertise in this field. When coordinates are clear, every action passes through a filter. Is this taking me closer to that point? If the answer is yes, do it. If the answer is no, drop it. This filter creates velocity. Motivation doesn't apply filters. Motivation says, this feels good, do it. Direction says, feeling good isn't necessary, relevance is necessary. Therefore, a motivated person does many things. A directed person only does what's necessary. And in life, necessary tasks are few, but their impact is enormous. Speed creates chaos. Velocity creates focus. When you have direction, distraction starts decreasing. Because now every new opportunity doesn't seem attractive. You know that every good thing isn't the right thing for you. This maturity comes from direction. Motivation tells you to try everything. Direction teaches you to select. And selection is the real secret of success. In life, the problem isn't effort. The problem is misaligned effort. If you're climbing a ladder very fast but it's leaning against the wrong wall, speed has no meaning. Velocity means, right wall, right direction, and then steady climb. Direction teaches you patience. Because when the path is clear, you stop comparing. Now you don't watch others' speed. You watch your velocity. Someone might be moving faster than you, doesn't matter. If your direction is correct, you'll reach sooner or later. Motivation creates competition. Direction gives confidence. Confidence comes because you know, I might be slow, but I'm not wrong. When there's no direction, the person doubts themselves daily. Today something, tomorrow something else. Identity remains unstable. Direction fixes identity. You know which path you're on. And this clarity reduces anxiety. Many people live fast lives but aren't fulfilled, because fulfillment doesn't come from speed, it comes from alignment. Alignment means your effort, your goals, and your values are in one line. Velocity is the result of alignment. So next time you feel very busy but empty, ask yourself, am I fast? Yes, but am I in the right direction? If there's no direction, speed becomes dangerous. The faster you run, the faster you reach the wrong place. Slow with direction is always better than fast without it. Motivation teaches you to run. Direction teaches you to arrive. And life's goal isn't to keep running. Life's goal is to reach the right place. Everyone fears failure in life. Some admit it openly, some internally. As soon as something goes wrong, the first thought arrives, maybe I can't do this. I'm the weak one. This isn't within my capacity. One small mistake breaks complete confidence, and gradually the person stops trying altogether. But there's a huge difference in how failure is viewed. Some people connect failure to their personality, and some people consider failure merely information. This difference is created by direction. When a person doesn't have direction, every failure becomes personal. They feel this mistake is proof of their lack of intelligence, talent, or luck. But when direction is clear, that same failure becomes just data. A signal that something needs adjusting on the path. Without direction, failure gives pain. With direction, failure guides. Imagine you're driving somewhere without a destination, and you take a wrong turn, there will be frustration. You'll think, why do I always do wrong? But if the destination is set in GPS and you take the wrong turn, what happens? GPS calmly says, recalculating route. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't call you useless. It simply updates the data. This is the mindset direction gives. When destination is clear, mistakes don't remain character flaws, they become navigation issues. The problem is most people are moving without destinations. They only know this much, I want to become successful, or life should be better. But where to reach isn't clear. And when destination itself isn't clear, how can the path be proven wrong? Therefore, every setback hits the heart. Failed the exam, I'm stupid. Business didn't work, I don't have capability. Content didn't work. I don't have talent. Actually, the problem isn't talent. The problem is direction. Direction creates a feedback loop. Feedback loop means, action to result to learning to adjustment to next action. This cycle only works when you have a fixed point where you need to reach. If you don't know what the target is, how will you evaluate the result? Suppose you made 10 videos. If there's no direction, you'll only think, views didn't come, I'm a failure. But if there's direction, like, build audience in 3 months, then those same low views give you different messages. Now you ask, is the thumbnail wrong? Is the topic weak? Is the audience wrong? Now failure becomes information, not emotion. Direction transforms emotion into logic. When a person is in emotional mode, they can't learn from failure. They just get hurt. Direction brings them into analytical mode. Analytical mind asks, what didn't work? Emotional mind says, I don't work. This is the biggest difference. Direction separates failure from self-worth. You might have bad results, but you yourself don't become bad. This clarity is very necessary because most people give up because they consider themselves the result. But results are temporary. Direction is permanent. When direction is clear, every failure refines you. You start understanding better, how the market reacts, what people like, what your strengths are, where your weaknesses lie. Without direction, failure seems random. With direction, failure becomes meaningful. This is why successful people don't fear failure. They know it's part of the process. Like a scientist conducting experiments. Every experiment doesn't succeed, but every experiment teaches something. If a scientist said after one failed test, I can't do science, no discovery would ever happen. But scientists have direction, I must find the solution. Therefore, every failure just becomes elimination. This method doesn't work. This same mindset works in life. Direction makes failure a correction point, not a quitting point. You quit when you feel the path itself is wrong. You adjust when you know the destination is correct. Many people stop midway because they never define the destination. When pain arrives, they can't understand whether this pain is worth it. Direction tells you which pain is investment and which is waste. Not every struggle is valuable. But direction teaches this recognition. When there's no direction, the person considers every setback a sign. Maybe God doesn't want it. Maybe this isn't for me. But when there's direction, that same setback becomes a signal, change approach. God remains silent, but data always speaks. Failure gives data. But data can only be read when you have a map. Without a map, numbers are meaningless. Therefore, direction is the foundation of feedback loops. Without direction, you just fall. With direction, you fall and learn. And learning is growth. After a certain time, failure stops scaring you because now you know, this isn't the end, this is an update. GPS's recalculating voice is very powerful. It doesn't panic. It stays calm. Direction gives you that same calm. You know, I'm not wrong. I'm just adjusting the path. And this thinking creates long-term success. Because the person who considers every failure a personal insult can't last long. But the person who considers failure feedback becomes unstoppable. The biggest benefit of having direction is this: failure doesn't break you, it shapes you. And the day you stop fearing failure, that day growth begins. Because now you don't fear falling. Now you start loving learning. Most of us want to do something big in life. Big goal, big dream, big result. We say, one day I'll write my book, start my business, transform my body, completely change my life. The dream sounds powerful. But as soon as working on it is mentioned, the mind suddenly becomes heavy. The heart starts panicking, and we speak the sentence that has killed the most dreams. I'm not in the mood right now. Actually, the problem isn't mood. The problem is entry. We stand before the goal like we're at the base of a mountain. We look up and think, how will something this big happen? The brain instantly feels pressure. Motivation doesn't work there because motivation often says, change everything, apply full force, make a massive start. Motivation demands a big start. It says, from today, write 3 hours daily, go to gym 2 hours, completely change your routine. These things sound powerful. But for the brain, this becomes high-friction entry. Friction means resistance. The more friction, the more fear. The more resistance, the more delay. Direction changes the game here. Direction doesn't demand big jumps. Direction runs on micro-movements. Direction says, need to write a book. Fine. Today just write 1 sentence. 1 sentence requires neither inspiration nor energy nor mood. Just follow the instruction. This is the power of low-friction entry. Low-friction entry means a first step where the mind doesn't have to fight. A step so small the brain can't make excuses. The brain fears heavy work but not tiny action. If you think 30 push-ups, resistance will come. But if you think 1 push-up, the brain says, I can at least do that. This is the psychology. The human brain runs on momentum, not motivation. Starting momentum doesn't require speed, it requires movement. And movement begins with small steps. Motivation often shows the finish line. Direction shows the next step. Seeing the finish line creates fear. Seeing the next step creates action. When the goal appears too big, the brain enters threat mode. The amygdala activates, and survival instinct says, run. Therefore procrastination happens. But when the task is so small it doesn't even seem threatening, the brain stays relaxed. Direction reduces pressure. You don't have to write the entire book, just write 1 line. You don't have to understand the entire chapter, just read 1 page. You don't have to change your entire life, just improve today's 10 minutes. Direction controls the present, not the future. Motivation is future-based, one day everything will change. Direction is present-based, what must be done right now. Low-friction entry makes discipline easier. Because discipline seems difficult when entry is hard. If going to the gym means packing a bag, finding clothes, traveling, resistance increases. But if the rule is, just put on shoes, entry becomes easy. Often action moves forward automatically. After putting on shoes, you feel like walking a bit. After walking, jogging a bit. After jogging, workout. Movement creates motivation. Motivation doesn't create movement. This is the secret. Direction doesn't wait for motivation. Direction generates motivation from action. Therefore, low-friction entry is so powerful. It's the biggest formula for habit building. Habits never form from huge commitments. Habits form from tiny consistency. Every big result is the compound of small actions. But motivation teaches you explosion, not compound. Change everything at once. Explosion looks impressive but doesn't last. Direction is slow burn, and slow burn is what lasts long. When you follow micro steps, guilt decreases. Because now you're not making unrealistic promises to yourself. You're just saying, 1 small task today. And when that task completes, the brain gives a reward. Dopamine releases. Confidence increases. You can tell yourself, at least I'm consistent. Consistency creates confidence. Confidence is more powerful than motivation. Low-friction entry gives you identity shift. You don't suddenly become a writer. You become the person who writes 1 sentence daily. And gradually that sentence transforms into pages. Direction also calms the ego. Motivation excites the ego, I'll do something big. Direction teaches humility, today, small is fine, but I did it. And growth comes from humility. Many people can't even start because they want a perfect start. Perfect mood, perfect plan, perfect time. Direction doesn't demand perfection. Direction demands participation. Just make the entry. The biggest benefit of low-friction entry is this. It eliminates fear of failure. You can't fail by writing one sentence. You can't become a loser by studying 5 minutes. The risk is so small that fear disappears. And where fear ends, action begins. Direction doesn't teach you to become a hero, it teaches you to become a daily worker. Heroes are made in one day. Workers are made daily. And whoever is made daily ultimately becomes great. Therefore, if some goal feels heavy to you, don't abandon it. Make its entry point smaller. The goal can be big. The step should be small. Because direction doesn't start from the destination, it starts from the next step. And when the next step is so easy that excuses can't be made, life automatically starts moving forward. So friends, this was today's book summary. Let us know in the comments how you liked it. And thank you for listening until the end.